Okay, well, happy Memorial Day. Said we had three more things to do. So, as I said, how do we, as Star Wars fans, back Bob Chapek, plan to the board? So, I said in my last video that the situations were odd. So, a couple days ago, I found these on the back of where I'm at, and I don't live in an area where such things are at. People actually still respect other people's private property. Uh, and two, I just don't live in those kind of areas. It's just why should I and why would I? I don't know exactly what they are, but I'm pretty sure that was a tag and that was probably a death tag. But we'll see what happens. Anywho, continuing on. So let's start. Today we're just going to go over the board, and then over the rest of the week we're going to work up through that. Through the how do we use what we learn. Okay, so the last several weeks we went on. If you've gone to my Facebook page or whatever, all the posts starting with they're all geopolitics because we got to give we the reason is it's an international company and it doesn't exist in a vacuum, and it's an international company that's headquartered in the United States. It's come up out of the United States, so it's the culture of the United States. It's Disney, dude. Let's see here. Your republic is in peril. It really is, because I'm really tired of looking at that. There's these. It is because people are being brainwashed. That's another way I can say it. And I can explain it more scientifically later, but we're not going to go there right now. There's not a counterbalance to big capital, i.e., workers, people who work for a living. Big capital has been just hammering both entrepreneurs and workers since the 1970s, and that swing's not coming. It has to come back because when people lose the belief that they can't redress for grievances, then people are going to redress for grievances in their way. And right now, geopolitically, we're being targeted by Russia, and they're using white nationalists as a proxy throughout the Western world. That includes Europe, Eastern Europe, here in America, and then they're doing other little things, but not as much as they are in Eastern Europe and in America here. And then we have China. They're trying to rise to a global superpower, bent on strangling the West and democracy in general, and the U.S. in particular, using their Belt and Road Initiative and doing it through global trade. That's all good and normal, actually, but the way they're doing it is kind of, we'll go into that later. So let's review the participants. As I said, China, Belt and Road, Bitcoin to private citizens as digital gold standard. It just makes sense. Maybe it may not or may not, but just look at it as and understanding that the see here the Han Chinese whoops don't believe in that everyone's separate. That everyone's an individual. We believe in our individuality here, big time. Not them. So they're in Africa. They're recolonizing Africa using high interest loans, using Chinese labor, very little investment in the countries themselves. They're, they're just really actually strangling these countries. And we're arguing with ourselves and we're losing traction. So even if the quote white nationalists kill all the black folks, we've still lost the war because no one's going to want to do business with us because we're just going to do the same thing to them from their perspective. So Australia right now is being strangled. I call it an acupuncture style attack. If you ever watched I remember that's one movie, dude's like puts this acupuncture thing, and the dude's head explodes. So it's kind of like that. You know, one little spot, and they're doing it with wine and different shipping things because Australia is still very rich, but the pain points are really, really, really targeted, and it's even targeting. There was one of the videos that showed this guy and his mom. It was and they were a vineyard. Now, from a Western perspective, it's like, why are they doing that to their person, to their folks? And from their perspective, they're saying, well, he's taking one for the team. So two different perspectives, even though the video is showing one the same thing, and it's a test. Would we react? We didn't. We haven't. Uh, and they're being attacked as part of the Belt and Road Initiative. If you just look at the globe, it can be easily seen, and we're too busy worrying about what skin tone is and getting hammered. And then the EU, they're getting creamed. They want to have hydrogen as a way to not need Russian gas. Russia uses the gas pipelines. They're squeaking and hammering them, and we're just sitting there. There's a North Sea pipeline they want to send through to Germany. Germany needs it to keep the economic engine running, but we're not we're not doing anything. As I said, he's used it to cut off gas to the EU. It's done on purpose, and people forget. Putin is a student of history. He was bragged about. The U.S. is in decline. He's using the Russian Orthodox Church. That connects to the white nationalists. That's white nationalists believing, yeah, that's the last great white hope. BS. Smoke another one. They don't care. Anywho, um, they sound freaking stupid, dude. Can't hold that one in. It's like, you really, dude. Oh yeah, dude. Oh, I'm so. Then we have Iran, which is kind of in a three. You know, they're kind of caught in the middle. And I'm not for Iran. I think the the Shahs are jerks. Yeah, they're a really metropolitan country in general, but the religious organization at the top won't let anyone grow. And that's the one thing you learn. When the religions take over, when the religious folks take over, then everyone's doing something wrong, as opposed to being, as opposed to really, yeah, they just become jerks. Go that way. And then Israel, you saw the whole thing with the Palestine. He's using the evangelicals. He's not even trying to help the people. He even look like he's helping the peace process. He's just whatever. Um, it's not my fight about this situation, but it's just understanding how they're screwing each other. You know, Hamas is controlled by Iran. They're corrupt. Fatah, they're corrupt. It's like, so you kind of see what they're saying. It's like, yeah, dude. But by the same token, by keeping them dirt poor, would they be more or less corrupt? But then you have the worry that once they get capital, they'll be that it's a balancing point. But just squeezing people to the point where they don't believe, well, then they have nothing else, which is also stupid. And then also, I think the Ashkenazi have taken on some of the bad habits that they learned in Europe because they're also um, doing that to the Ethiopian Jews, or being kind of not kind of exceptionally racist. And and that's a blatant, even, and not even just uh, the Ethiopian Jews, but they also are kind of jerks to Shekhadan Jews. So they picked up some of the bad habits of stupidity. So big capital uses racism and white nationalism because if you keep fighting people, the small people fighting, it's all good. It's just them. But as we saw in the last video, okay, the African American families are being destroyed, and the next level is the Hispanic. Well, they're shorter brown. They're a little off right because remember the Republicans were trying to, until Trump, trying to court the Hispanics. Minus what's going on on the border in Texas because the the cartels are just horrible. I get it, you know, but they use racism and they make everyone worse off. And they squeeze capital out of the pockets of working class. We'll get to that in a bit. That's kind of more normal stuff. There's always that battle between workers and capital, and then the entrepreneurs are stuck in the middle. But you have to understand that to see what's really going on. Most don't, and now, because they're all angry, don't even realize it. And EA's European American, so, while they're kicking down, they're being poor. You can see that within Kentucky. 35% of Kentucky's revenues come from the federal government, and mostly because that's why McConnell can be such a jerk about things, is because, well, you're not going to take my money away because you got Fort Knox and then you have the one of First Airborne in Kentucky, but 50,000 for a household. That's usually a household is considered a minimum of two persons. Yeah, he's screwing over his people. So I want to know where my money's going. If it's not getting down to the households, where the heck is our money going? And then he's being a jerk, and and to the rest of the country, and yet he's screwing over his people. Hey, but it's 87. It's mostly European Americans, and I guess you can say, well, it's keeping all those Negroes out. So whatever. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. I remember I was being in Kentucky on the bike ride, and it's like you can get to the highway, and the highways are all federal. So the it was just recent, like 3 years ago, perfectly smooth paved. I don't know how when it was paved before. And I was talking to this lady, and she goes, one of the Kentuckians is going to realize Mitch McConnell is totally jackknifing them, and they're not. So it is what it is. But the military right now, as you saw in some of my Facebook posts, we have hydrogen. The military needs fuel, as any student of mechanized warfare, or even non-student of mechanized warfare. It's kind of obvious, like, well, you need fuel to make that tank move. But they're turbine engines. The Navy runs it's public knowledge. You can look at it's easy. It's a turbine engine. GE has said that we've been running these turbine engines, LS 2000 or something like that, 2500, and they've been using it for power generation. And so turbine engines are used for power generation. So it's the same engine that's being used to turn an, a generator to create AC power is still the same turbine that's being used in moving our ships. So, Air Force is still worried about reliability testing and stuff like that. But hydrogen is the main chemical catalyst in the rocket fuel. So there's a strategic reason to go green, because it cuts off Russia, and we can make this happen. And it's a strategic situation. So we're gonna go. That's big picture geopolitics, whatever, man. It seems kind of weird, but that's cool. But if you understand it, it's going to make more sense and be able to give you when you get these arguments, because they're all arguing emotionally and stuff. And so so we start here, and then next video, well, actually several videos, we'll go into the Republic part and how we're going to take these systems and turn it into a system of systems to hopefully, you know, well, there's no hope. We have hope. We have to make this work. There's no ifs, ands about it. Rome only lasted 400 years before Octavian took it over and then started the whole processes of emperors. SPQR, and yeah, like they really cared after that point. Anyway, so we have broken down into three possible allies: fence sitters, and then of course leverage. And so on the board, as we see over here from Wall Street Journal, we I didn't all of them are on here this, but the ones I felt would be easiest to understand. These colors will make sense in a second, in a wee bit when we get down to leverage. So Michael Froman, he is a geopolitician and a banker. He represents the Import Export Bank, and their their goal is to help capital get financing. So that way, businesses in the United States can get paid, and also we can do, as it says, import and export, which is what the business of America, which is business, what we can do it geopolitically, and strengthen jobs back home. This is going to become more important. National Calvin R. McDonald, National Retail Association, and they're, nope, I don't want to bug me. It's advocating small retail business, face-to-face business. This is the world of, yeah, they're mostly for big business, but it's also understanding small business and helping small business grow and get products and services and helping people live a life that's not a caveman. That's the coolest thing about business is we live a really kick butt life because people want to do cool stuff and other people say that's cool stuff and I'll hand over in the form of cash my valuable time. It's cool and it's awesome and it's one of the coolest things that ever happened in the world. But hey, we'll go. That's yeah. Uh, I digress as always. Yeah. Then Miss Amy, I think that's an L Chang. She's very interesting because all of her things are data. A lot of the data. These are the three things I picked that she sits on the board. Let's see. Let's get this back over here. How many movements? Blah 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 blah. So, where is it? These I was it's really 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 wicked cool. So this is really cool. Yeah, people who aren't really all that big on data and understanding how data. It's kind of like okay, whatever, machine learning. That's cool, but this is data as a service. Wicked cool. And this is she sits on the board, and uh, when one of my the way I was placing out my my videos about what was necessary, and I had to place one where it said use. It's called breadth first search, which is a type of AI well used in artificial intelligence, and this is basically this is data and AI as a service. And if you're a small business owner, you should be going googity gaga over this. Be like, doogity. If you don't get it, well, cool, because I do. Anywho, moving on. And here's another one. Now, this is really, really, really cool because, especially, one of the things I was talking to my buddy, he's like you see right now, there's unrest in Colombia, surprise, and I'll keep that one to myself. But there was, how do we get payment? There's farmers, and then you have the cartels, and they pretty much control farming and whatever, and they're paying these people nothing. And but how say for instance you want to say we all know about Colombian coffee, maybe there's other crops, but how do you get that capital to them directly? This is one of those things because it's a payment platform. It's kind of like Stripe in many ways, but I just see so many different ways of using this as a growth opportunity, as a backbone growth opportunity. This will also come into really big use later on as we get into the leverage portion of this rabble. And then this one is really pragma. This is I I see this as a way of connecting. You create these cloud games, but I see a lot of, yeah, I know you use cookies. Trust me. Dan, the amount of cookies some of these sites are slapping on your computers are ridiculous. But you MMORPGs, you can gamify things. You now have code engines. This is really the geeks. They get it. They can see. I can see it. But some people, like some small business owners and stuff, may not really understand how really this is a really cool platform. So, so the reason I call her possible allies, we'll see as we get into leverage, as I said. And then we have the fence sitters, possibly Bob Iger. He wants to protect his legacy, and he can't. And you, well, looking forward. He's definitely forward looking. He gave, is it? I was listening to this speech what he gave at the University of Texas. Uh, you know, but that's midpoint. But actually, when you really listen to it, it makes a lot of good points, and it's a really good speech. I suggest you listen to it. About and that what he was talking about was that he had his first job, he got fired. Go figure. Uh, Rose worked his way up, and that's the American dream. In many ways, that's the American dream. You bust your butt, you fall down, you get back up, you kick ass later on. You do. That's life. Kicking ass, and not And so that was he's probably listening to this, or maybe listening to this, or maybe I'm more likely he's not listening. He's got better things to do this time. But can't, he's still on the board, and he's the executive chairman. So and then also the fact that not just the fact that he's an executive chairman, he's on the board of all these other different entities. So can't really, you can't say, well, he's still there, and he's actually doing really good work. Actually, when I started more research, this one's really, really, really cool. Carlyle Group is private equity, global investment firm, private equity, and there that says enough as it is. 260 billion in assets, and she's gonna wonder why are you doing this with our money? Why should you do this with our money? Why would you want to do this with our money? And that makes sense. That's a good question to ask. If your money is in that, you want them to ask those simple questions. So that's why. So and then leverage, and then Mary Barra, she's the head of GM. And the reason I call this leverage is she wants to build. GM wants to invest $1 billion in Mexico and moving American jobs to the South. Now, nothing wrong with with the person's down in Mexico, except it's viewed by the Mexican citizenry. Their entire government is absolutely inept and corrupt. So we're sending money down to them. It's not going to the citizens. It's not flowing down to the citizens. It's going straight into the cartels and people who are trying to kill us. Hands. So the question is, how do we help the act? Because they're still our neighbors. How do we help them so they can grow their businesses, grow their lives? Because if you have a lot of the things that are happening are just ridiculous. You say what you want, but I was just watching a Vice thing where the fear of Trump did slow down people coming to the border and the drug cartels moving drugs and stuff, but at the cost of our civil liberties, at the cost of our eventual lives, it's not worth it. Because if you listen to Stephen Miller, which is weird, he is a white nationalist, and you read their the hardcore works from immigration. Was the one on the So the Turner Diaries, and then the one he read, I couldn't get it on Amazon. What? Not the Coming Race. There was another one, but it's um, it's not cool. White nationalist takes over America, they're gonna kill everybody because that's not me saying it. That's them saying it. So my thinking is we can 70% back to, instead of taking $1 billion and dumping it on the people who want to kill us, and then lower our wages and to make the people here in the United States look like crap, and then the drug cartels pump more money after they've squeezed the money out of the government of Mexico, and then they dump their money into our real estate market to launder it. Why don't we just build a freaking factory here and still do business with them, but keep most of our money here until they clean up their mess? But that's just my silliness. But I don't think that's going to happen because of the way their culture is. They like to kick down. We can do that with fleet and retail incentives for, because Biden said he wanted to that we electric cars. Well, they were going to do their electric car plant down in Mexico. We can build here. I don't know why Ross Perot was right. Well, she's also on the board of. If you don't know what Ross Perot was a Texan who said about when NAFTA was being done that you're going to hear a giant sucking sound of jobs leaving America going down south for low wages. And from a business perspective, the wages have not even gone up in Mexico because everything's so damn corrupt. Corruption hurts everyone. And the funny thing is, because it just becomes more about a power grab as opposed to actually making money. You can actually make more money with less corruption. Irony, I know. But this is where she's. The other thing is which I thought was this is really actually really cool. Self-driving cars, GM's working on doing that, which makes sense because they're going to. It may be one day we all are you you don't really own vehicles, or in the city, if you're in the cities or whatever, you don't own your own vehicle, or you might everything. Put it this way: all those Ubers and Lyfts, all those drivers, all they're doing is training the self-driving car. They're playing the under parts, and then that data is going to be underneath with the lidar. So you have the combination of two different data sets working together. So all you Uber and Lyft drivers, about 5-10 years. So make sure you work on another side gig. Don't get too caught up in it. That's my hypothesis. It might be longer, but I don't see that. Here, Center for Leadership Development. This is about creating small businesses. This one was really, really cool. And it's helping people. This was really, really cool. All the way from young age, all the way up to learn how to lead. And those are what creates entrepreneurship. You have the ability to have a good idea, and then you get people together, and then you collect capital and workers, and you create a new idea and create this whole new thing, and you make everybody's lives better. That's so cool. That's the American way. And then this one. These two are really, really wicked cool. As far as the Bostonians would say, it's it's this community of helping people who are how is it who have these different type of health issues. And so it's basically crowdsourcing health without, and you're not totally crowdsourcing it. You still have to have medical professionals, but it's the wisdom of the crowds being used in a platform way. And this is really cool. I know a person right now. She's a researcher. She PhD. Was it Cornell? No, out of Columbia, and she has metastatic breast cancer. And just watching her go through her struggles is Yeah, it's a kick in the groin, man. It really is not cool at all, but that's life, but it still sucks. I think I'm going to send her this, but she probably already knows about it, but still. And then this is another one of these. You know why we had the RNA, mRNA, and all this. This is talking about genetic sequencing. It's this is what they're looking for. This is helping create new ways of doing things, mainly as far as medicine. So he's mainly in medical, but it's really really cool. And the reason we want to go over that and then say, okay, let's look at it from how can we say what things are, why would they want to be possible allies? What would they be fence sitters? And how can we use that as leverage, carrots and sticks, so to speak? So let's look at the Biden Harris. Okay, there you are. But this is what was, they broke it down. The Washington Post did it in a really neat way. And you can see it's color coded. So I matched the color code with green being, of course, we're America. We're all about making our money. And so it's four buckets: taking care of our elders, human infrastructure, which is where we're having problems with the Republicans not understanding that human infrastructure is, because they're actually they do know, but they're always trying to squeeze lower rents and rents as far as lower cost on. As a businessman, you're always trying to lower cost, but in this case, lowering the cost on human infrastructure actually raises the cost and makes us poorer. Because if you don't invest in your people, you can't get your people to do new things. And it drives me nuts, especially about the high-speed broadband. Congress passed 20 years ago fi- fiber to the home, and yet we still don't have fiber to the home. And the reason is because big corps don't want it. The, and if you ever worked on a fiber backbone, woo, doggy. Anyway, so and then R&D, or manufacturing and transportation. All of these are synergistic systems. You cut one system, you destroy the strength of the others. Now, as I said, what's being proposed? Oh, we just want transportation, which means then we present these to them. Then the way McConnell usually works is, oh, that's cool. I'll just take that now, right? And that's not cool at all. And then he slices it off, and then keeps people poor. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. And it's just freaking not cool. Jerks. So the first one is we take care of elders. And there's a TED talk where it said, where if you look it up, what was the first defining point of civilization? And it was a mended bone. And, and that means that person was brought back in. They still had value within the community. And if we're going to be civilized, we have to take care of our people. We have to take care of the elderly. Yeah, and it's not that hard, just take care of it. They're a pain in the butt. Old people tend to be. That's what old people do. Become a pain in the butt. See half of the. But if you want to, that's all I got to say about that. You take care of your elderly. They built what you stand upon. It's just the way it should be, personally, and I'm not. And then in the human infrastructure, we can simple Maslow's, and you have different hierarchies, whatever. But we're just gonna. It's easiest. Everyone knows Maslow's, but I even broke it down to even to three: food, water, shelter, and farmers. Part of that is old school Kansas type farmers. You ever been to the Midwest and you see farms, or even Washington, which has a bunch of wheat, which was really weird. It's like, what? The whole middle of the state's a wheat farm? Well, ain't that neat? Then you have Google doing other more technology doing indoor farms, hydro type farms. You see that a lot in Spain, actually, Spain and Portugal. So that's really where we can do those investments to feed our people and then feed the world. And then water, health of our sovereigns. If you vote, you are a sovereign. This is America. And if you are not healthy, and from a risk perspective, unhealthy people do not make good workers. They're lower efficiency. They are a drain on resources. They are a risk. So as a business person, you want to offload your risk, usually. So why would I want my people drinking lead and going crazy and being unhealthy and therefore increasing my risk? Unless you're doing it on purpose to try to hurt people. I digress. And then shelter. This one irks me. Prices are being bid up. Was one place I was looking at. I hadn't been keep my eye on that particular area, and I know that they're piggy banking. What I mean by piggy banking, they're outside investors are dumping millions of dollars into these areas, and prices are being driven up, wicked stupid. And it's not just out of state people moving from high expense state to a lower expense state. It's yeah, it ain't cool. But yeah, you can tell I'm not a big fan of global theft and then using us to screw with everybody. So the future infrastructure, the future of today infrastructure at home, and we're no longer in the 20th century, old timers. Technology is moving at speeds that just just unreal. So let's go with public education. That's what they're doing vouchers. Bottom line, you see what's being done. It's designed to keep you poor, but when you're looking at technology, if people are uneducated, they lose hope. If they're uneducated, they that's loss of productive capacity. If they're uneducated, it it just sucks all around. You early learning helps working parents, helps keep marriages together. How's that? Because as a man, no matter, sorry ladies, you might not need a man, but you want a man. It's just who we are as human beings. Or you want a secondary partner or another partner. And there's if you say the old the two person masculine feminine, even if it's not a dude and a chick, you're you're still expected to bring home the bacon and helping kids learn and do, and it just helps. It's if you could build a family and build those things, you've made these commitments, even though the numbers say 90% of all divorces are usually initiated by one particular. It's these are the things that are necessary to keep those together, because as we're seeing, when you have a high divorce rate, you have a high poverty rate. That's not cool at all. And if your kids are learning and you still think you got it and you're having a job, you walk it, you're being productive to society, lowers the drug use, it lowers it creates happiness. Being able to be part of society to build is really important, and being able to provide for kids, if you're creating offspring, is exceptionally important. And education in a high tech society is one of the most important things, especially for our wealth. Now, a lot of people do not realize that broadband is a national security issue. Putin himself has said whoever wins the quantum computing race will control the world. And if you ever read about quantum mechanics, old book, 1970s, Dancing Wu Lee Masters, excellent book, but it's more a kind of philosophical quantum computing, but it's good. But when you more actually it was quantum mechanics, but then if you then there's courses on edX and Coursera where you could actually take and learn how to program a quantum computer. And if you can understand it, which it's really cool, and you understand the spin and how you're using the qubits to manipulate data, and then understand the quantum superpositioning of that data, and yeah, the collapsed wave equation, and what's going to come down, and then combine it with what's going on with machine learning, it's ridiculous. And if we don't have broadband, copper wire, love them, they're awesome, but broadband, fiber optic carries way more data, and it's just, we need that, or we're going to get trounced. Period. And then electrical infrastructure, because we need it for cars, planes, electric planes, maybe cars, electric cars, and the biggie, which is Hyperloop. And Hyperloop is going to change. Hyperloop is basically taking TCP and turning it into a transportation system. And what TCP is packets. So basically, you are basically a packet is it's like a car. You put everything in your packet, and then you jump in. So, but Hyperloop is a lane, and when you, it's going to take a lot of energy, and actually takes comparatively less, but you're still going to need power generation because the tracks are electric, and you're going to need superconductivity. Right now we're going to use copper and all that, but if you could create superconductive materials, pardon me, and then the copper won't be needed. But Hyperloop is a game changer as far as just-in-time inventory. You can sit there, build it in, say, Kenosha, and then ship it to Cali that day, and it only takes about 3 hours. If it hits what it could do, but everything's pointing that it's going to do what it says it's going to, what the possibilities. So it's wicked cool. So it's going to need power generation, which then means, oh yeah, that hydrogen thing. What a thought. And then here's the third one: research and development, and entrepreneurship, manufacturing and development. This, you have to look to the future. You know, looking forward. What's the new ideas? What are we? How do we? You know, well, let's test this thing out. Maybe we'll do this, or check this out. It's needed. If you don't create curiosity, then you aren't backing the country. And entrepreneurship, as I said before, simple. It's jobs. You, you know, stuff ain't gonna make itself. Well, maybe one day but even then, it still has to be creative with people in mind. No matter how much automation, it's still products to people. And then workforce development. So you don't want to be an entrepreneur. Who cares? You have to have skills, or you're gonna keep, because things are gonna keep changing. You're gonna need to upskill every 5 years or so. I hate to say it, the old days of just learning. You might start off as a welder, but yeah, you might end up being a machinist. That's your thing. You might be a hands-on type of person, but you're still, or new welding technologies come in, or new ways of welding, and you're always going to be upskilling to stay competitive and to feed your families. It's just the way it goes. Cutting these pieces off, because right now we've been in so much deferred maintenance for so long. On the next video tomorrow, I'll show you how much has been lost in because because we've been getting kicked in the groin getting screwed over. Capital is supposed to push down. It's supposed to invest in entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are supposed to invest in workers. Workers are supposed to, entrepreneurs come up with an idea, then they invest in workers. Workers create that, help other workers and entrepreneurs and capital. But when capital gets greedy, all it wants is more capital. And because of the financialization of the finance markets, if capital doesn't have to make money down within real people, who cares? That's not cool because what happens is high drug addiction rates, hopelessness, helplessness. It's weakness. It's what's that? Idle hands of the devil's playground, or whatever. Not a very good that, but and also we'll get our butts handed to us because China. You do your research, do some reading on them. They want to be a world power, and they think because we have been here for so many years, blah 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 blah, we're supposed to whatever, dude. Right? Do you want to win? Then you need research and development and workforce development. Winning starts there, and then finally, transportation infrastructure. It reduces risk. From a business perspective, it is risk reduction, purely and simple. It's risk reduction for business, small and large. Why? Okay, in the early 1900s, there used to be plaques on businesses, and if you fire, if you it was basically it was insurance, it wasn't, and it was an insurance plaque, basically, and every insurance company had their own. Every business had to get an insurance. Every fire department was connected to this insurance policy, an insurance company, and so they'd roll up to your places on fire. And I remember they didn't have any indoor sprinklers or OSHA or any of that safety stuff we have now. So your places on fire and didn't have the plaque. They just roll up and watch it burn. Is that what you want? Roads. There's nostalgia about roads, dirt roads. I've lived on a dirt road. They're cool, but they they screw up your car. You have to grade the road after every rain. Bridges. Do you want to be able to drive over the bridge? You want to be able to walk over the bridge? We have all this deferred maintenance because we're not spending money on making sure we have the infrastructure necessary to be kick butt. We're getting our butts creamed, folks. We really are. And they have the uber rich are having us pointing and well, some of these ideas are cool. Or I'm a capitalist, dude. But I definitely see the difference between capitalism and BS. And people have been sold BS, not capitalism. And it needs to change because it just needs to change. Right now, you have 75 million people who are being absolutely lied to. Well, I could say, in their minds, they're not being lied to because their only votes that matter are the vote of them. Other people who don't, quote, look like them's votes don't matter. So therefore, they're not lying because, well, they're supposed to win. That's the whole thing. That's what they're saying. I'm supposed to win. Oh, ain't that cute? And then which is actually more risky for us as a full nation. So even if they were to get rid of all the black folks, brown folks, all the 150 million, kick them all out, you're going to get clobbered by China. That they don't realize it. Arrogant ignorance. It is what it is. So electric clean vehicles. You, why do I say mech suits? Because I was sitting there thinking about this. All right, if you're going to build a mech suit, how would I build a mech suit with what we have right now? Well, we know solid state batteries are coming up because they're lighter, they're stronger, they don't explode, they charge faster. You need hydrogen fuel cells. So let's say you have a mech suit. Say it's made out of some carbon fiber, or not even carbon, or carbon nanotubes. So you got your carbon fiber, carbon nanotube mech suit. You need to go. So, but now you have solid state batteries to move all of the microtubule fake muscles or whatever. But instead of trying to charge it from the sun, you just plug some hydrogen in, you just grab some water, glug, 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 put it in the back. It goes through a hydrogen fuel cell. That charges the batteries. Then you got hydrogen, oxygen as byproducts. Boom, now you got a jet engine pack. So it's got this all cool stuff. So the future is sitting. All those things we see you created in cartoons, even from back old timers. I'm a Gen, 50, Gen Xers back. MAGA. 10, 15 years, it's possible to be done if we pull our head out of our buttocks. But we got to be willing, because these risk things, we got to be willing, as from a business perspective, they're going to offload risk onto us. Well, okay, if us as we the people, so if we're going to take this risk, we want a reward for our risk. It's not to offload risk and then give us nothing. Nah, that's not how it works. We'll take the risk. We want our money. So, is the American economy, as I was saying, is three buckets: capital, entrepreneurship, and labor. Capital is money in the bank, rich folks and retirees whose money comes in the mailbox. So, as a capitalist, you're sending your money out. You want it to come back with a little with extra friends. That's the goal of capital. Entrepreneurship, daydreamers that making stuff. So capital should be backing daydreamers that want to make stuff. And the more daydreamers that want to make stuff, the more capital or probabilities of capital that can come back. And then labor. If you work for a living to pay your bills, guess what? You're labor. It doesn't matter if you're blue or white collar, you're labor. You work with your mind or your hands. Even if you're working with your hands, you're still working with your mind. There's no ifs, ands around that. And we got to quit. When you understand these three interactions, you don't get screwed so easily. You understand why these pieces are needed. And this infrastructure, the reason it's so expensive is it's say 70s. It's 50 years of deferred maintenance. 50 years of non-investment in the United States, all going to capital. Oh, that has to change. That we got to reverse that. And so by using these, making it by looking at it from that perspective is okay. As we go farther down into how are we going to use these situations. The same processes we're going to use to run the republic are the same processes, but different to back Chapek. So this one's a little technical, and the other one's going to get even more technical. But I'm trying to make it as simple as a complex situation, as simple as I possibly can, because we are in danger as a country, and not just as a country, but as the West. There's something magical in investing in each other. Something magical in believing in each other. We don't live outside getting rained on. We don't live in caves. Well, we build our own man-made caves with air conditioning and all the others. But that's not what was there years ago. Even 60 years ago, every place had air conditioning. That's technology. That's curiosity. And we just get greedy and we destroy each other. And our near peers are just sitting there waiting for us to implode. our greatest strength, I personally view as a country, as I said, is that tumble. Is that if you win fair and square, you win fair and square. Not this, oh, I'm supposed to win. So no, that's not what happens. That's not the way it's supposed to be, and it's not cool. That's the way of a coward and a weakling, and that's un-American. So I hope you watch the video. It makes sense. If it does, cool. If it doesn't, well, I did my best. Well, I didn't really. Oh, I did my best. I did what I could do within a way that I could explain it so far, because it's going to get, especially when we go into how we're going to use all these pieces, it's going to get a little bit more complicated. But as far as this is just a understanding, just a slight understanding of what's coming down the pike, and why we must also get get this infrastructure passed, because it's jobs, it's security, it's the country, it's America. An angry little man child believes he wasn't supposed to win. I mean, he wasn't supposed to lose because he does not believe persons who have a different view than him count. That's pure BS. That's my personal. But I know we can do better. And I'll see you tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, because okie dokie.